30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's to the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
Welcome, everybody, once again to the Big Ugly Show special presentation of the Big Uglies today. In the studio, of course, you got Big Daddy here along with JC, breaking down this news coming out of the NCAA. This was coming. This has been coming for a while, so it's not like this surprising, but didn't realize this was happening today. What's up, Chef? What's going on, buddy? So it's kind of a surprise. We were sitting there working out, then you mentioned this, and I was like, all right, we got to do a show then. Because we got to talk about this. This has been a hot topic of debate.
For years.
For so long. And there's so many implications behind this.
Yeah, and you think about some of the fallout. So for those of you who don't know, forever, the NCAA, as a way to maintain their dominance and line their pockets, they have maintained that all of their college athletes are amateur status. And in order to be amateur status, they cannot get paid to perform their sport.
Exactly.
Nor can they make profit off of their name, image, or likeness. So it doesn't matter what they do, they cannot brand themselves or market themselves until they turn professional. But if they do so while trying to be a college athlete, they would forego their college eligibility and no longer be able to participate in their sport.
That's right.
So now these rules, or those stressors, have been relieved to a degree. However, it's not as simple as, okay, well, now we can just pay everyone whatever we want. It's a free-for-all on paying players.
Yeah.
That's not quite true yet. So the NCAA still has their guidelines on what you can do. You can't pay players as a recruitment process.
Exactly.
You still can't do that.
That's right.
Boosters can pay players. However, it has to toe that line on, well, did you do it in order to get them at your school?
Yep.
Or are you paying them for how they played on the field?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that either.
That's right.
Now, however, athletes will be able to sign shoe deals. So, like, if you're a basketball player, but here's where it gets weird. So, let's say you are a top-tier basketball player. You're going to North Carolina.
Oh, dude, hang on a second, buddy. You're on the wrong mic, dude.
I'm not on the
I'm
wrong
glad.
mic.
I'm glad.
I'm on the same mic.
I'm glad you pointed that out, dude. He's sitting in the blue chair on the green mic. There we go. So now we can kind of hear you a little bit better, I hope.
Put that on me. He's the one operating the board.
Dude, you're the one on the wrong mic.
I've been here the whole time.
Dude, you're literally on the wrong mic. That's always the blue mic in front of you.
Literally always here.
No, it's not.
I have literally been here for 30 minutes now.
On the wrong mic the whole time. So
they could have noticed it, Mr. Board Operator there. So anyway, to get back to what I was saying for the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, you might as well start that crap over because then nobody hear a thing you said.
So, basically, the way this is going down is, yes, the rules and regulations have been alleviated a bit. However, the problem comes in that they are not. It's not like a free-for-all. You can't pay guys or girls whatever you want. You have to pay them a certain amount, and it has to be within certain guidelines. Like, you got to make sure it doesn't violate recruiting policies. So you can't pay someone to come play at your school. Boosters cannot pay players to come to their school, but they can pay players. But it's not really clear as to how these boosters can pay the players. You can't pay them to come to your school. You can't pay them based on their performance on the field while they're already at your school. So, what is it? Can you just, like, a random Tuesday night take them out for dinner? Is that what it is? Now, players can sign shoe deals, although there is the whole thing, like, these schools have brand deals themselves.
Yes.
So if you're a big-time college basketball player and you decide, I'm going to go play at North Carolina, and North Carolina has a deal with Jordan, well, when you're on the court representing your school, you still have to wear Jordan shoes. It doesn't matter that you're signed with Adidas. It doesn't matter that you're signed with Nike or Under Armour or Puma or whoever. Now, outside of an official NCAA game, you can still wear those shoes. Like if you go to do a team meeting or, it's like an open practice to the media or whatever, you can still wear your shoes. So even though your school's Jordan, you can wear your Nikes. You can wear your Adidas.
Mm-hmm.
Players can now go and do things like they can coach if they do like a camp, little football camp, maybe a 2-3 day summer thing or spring thing, they can coach and get paid for it. They can make money off of it. If they want to start a YouTube channel, well, we saw this with the guy whose YouTube channel is called Destroying. He was the kicker at UCF several years ago. The NCAA told him, because his YouTube channel was starting to pick up some steam and he was making money, and they told him, hey, you can either keep up your YouTube channel,
Yep.
or you can not be a college athlete anymore.
Exactly.
Those are your options. You have to pick between the two. He ultimately went with YouTube. It's worked out for him. However, you got to wonder if it cost him a chance at the NFL.
Well, I think that's been the biggest problem, right, with the NCAA is, and because they have such a stranglehold on these players who are making them money. These college athletes, this money just doesn't magically happen. These college players who are going out there putting their bodies on the line in whatever sport, not
Right.
just football.
It doesn't matter if it's gymnastics, track, hockey,
Exactly.
whatever.
So it's okay for you to make money off of those kids, but to turn around and say, well, I'm not going to allow you to have any money or make any money off your own name that you are giving to us, and we appreciate that, by the way, but we're not going to show you our appreciation. So truly, is this the end of the NCAA Mafia? That's what I want to know. There's stranglehold on these young men and women. Because
Not quite.
I think there's, because of what we were talking about, you were saying just a minute ago, I think there's some of that they're still saying, well, you can and can't do this. But we're starting to see the cracks appear, because there's a couple of things that will happen, and we were kind of in the gym talking about that this morning too. Will this now, though, especially these top-tier players who are making some money,
Right.
or players that are pretty good and might or may not get drafted, could they stay in college an extra year and fill out their full term now to
This is
make
the
some of that
incentive.
money off of their
Right.
tank? That's definitely their incentive to stay now.
I mean, if you were the second string wide receiver,
Yes.
you had a strong year, but you weren't getting the exposure that the first string wide receiver is. Maybe you're the same, age. You're both juniors.
Mhm.
The first stringer's like, well, screw it. I'm going pro. I'm a first round draft pick. But you are maybe a fourth round guy. You're a fifth round guy.
Exactly.
Why not come back? Because now you're the number one. You're going to get the targets. You're going to get the attention. You're going to boost your draft stock, and you can get paid on top of it.
Well, and that's what I mean.
So
So
that's-
it's
that's
going
a
to
lot
change
of
some
incentive
things a little bit.
there, yeah.
I mean, why would you, especially if it's not sure that you're going to get drafted or a higher draft
Exactly.
pick. And some of these guys we think we watch the draft every year, and then some of these guys who think they're just sure they're going to get drafted, but then they don't, because there's a little bit of ego involved. You think you're a great player, but
Huge ego
then
involved.
these guys in the NFL may not think so. So that's really going to make these guys start thinking about, should I go? Which leads into the next thing, agents. Putting your
Right.
own team together
Now,
while you're in college now.
and you can now sign an agent as a college athlete. So you can go out there, you can do that. You can file a copyright on your name. These are all things that, if you're a starter and you're excelling at your sport, why not do it? There were athletes who went ahead, as the clock was striking midnight, and they were already, signing off on their copyright deals and making sure that no one's making money off of them but them.
Yeah, and why not? I mean,
What's the guy's name? He's the quarterback at Wisconsin, Graham Mertz or something like
Yeah.
that. I think he went ahead and he had everything ready to go. All he had to do was submit it once the clock struck midnight, and it became official. So he was sitting there waiting. There's a pair of sisters who play for Fresno State on their basketball team. They're the two stars of the basketball team. A few minutes after midnight, they had already submitted their stuff.
Sure.
So while you can do these things now, there is no federal regulation, which is where the NCAA is hesitant, because they don't want to make broad sweeping changes yet, because if they do, they know the backlash will be, well, the federal government did this, but the federal government hasn't come out and fully stated exactly where it is. Because, as it is with the government, Republicans and Democrats can't agree on anything.
That's right.
But at some point, we know that they will get on the same page. It will be the government will work with the NCAA to create federal guidelines. Because right now,
Sure, as long as the government can make money off of it.
right now,
gotta have
the
taxation.
division's at the state level.
Oh, yeah, no
Because
doubt.
You have 50 states. Out of those 50 states, you got 25 states that have already passed NIL laws
Yeah.
to benefit college athletes. The other 25 hadn't. Well, as it stands right now, the 25 states that have passed those NIL laws and regulations, their schools have to adhere to those laws. However, the ones that haven't, it's kind of up to the school to find where the line is and what they can and can't do. And
which means, can you see athletes transferring now out of those schools that are iffy to schools that are saying, well, if you're a star here, you can get paid.
Well,
you can make money off your name.
And the NCAA did also just augment their transfer rules. So now when you sign your letter of intent to play for a program, let's say your name's Jeff Stevens, and Jeff Stevens is going to play tight end for Nebraska. Well, he gets to Nebraska, he's buried on the depth chart.
That's right.
Maybe they're deep at tight end. Maybe he's the fourth string tight end. Something happens, he gets up to third string, someone gets hurt, he plays a little bit his freshman year, maybe 3 games. Well, he still didn't play the 4 games, so he can still technically take a red shirt for that freshman year and still have that year of eligibility. But with the new NCAA transfer laws, he can leave Nebraska, play immediately at, Miami, let's say.
Yeah.
And he can go first day, maybe be the starter at Miami, walk right in, start playing from the get-go, and still be a redshirt freshman tight end. But after that, if he wants to transfer again, he's going to have to sit out a year. You know? But now they're getting to where if you want to leave and you enter that mythical transfer portal, you can go and play instantly.
Sure. And
which is another benefit for NCAA athletes.
I mean, there's a lot. It's just you know my thoughts for years now on the NCAA and what they've done to these kids and how they just randomly dish out their punishments and their fines and things like that. We talked about the Willie Gay incident this morning, with Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
We'll get a lot of mutes across a lot of platforms.
Well, I'm simply saying that if you got somebody that Ole Miss, and I'm not saying they were right in doing this at all, but they're offering to pay a player to come, or they're demanding a certain amount of money. You say okay.
We understand all schools do this.
Absolutely, and that's the point, and they all do. And then this guy says, you know what, Mississippi State's going to offer me a little bit more money, so I'll go down there, but I'll snitch on Ole Miss, even though everybody knows that Mississippi State is paying you too. The hammer falls down on Ole Miss, nothing happens to State.
Right.
All right,
exactly.
So NCAA can dish out. They're not consistent in anything that they do.
No, not at all.
At all. That's the point. Not the point that Ole Miss got in trouble. They should have. You shouldn't pay a player to go play with you when it was against the rules anyway. That's just how it was. Right or wrong, whether you agree with it or not, if it's against the rules, you shouldn't have done it because there was going to be something coming from that.
There's going to be fallout at some point if you get found out.
And just like you said, though, every college program is doing this.
Every major
level.
College program.
They are all coming at some point.
That's why they get to be major college programs.
Exactly. So there's some stuff happening. It's just who has the biggest voice inside that dark committee behind the back that none of us get to see that determines who's going to get the hammer brought down on them and who isn't.
I mean, you got to think about it this way. If you're a 5-star athlete, you're one of the top 100 recruits in the nation. You're getting hyped up by ESPN. You're getting hyped up by Sports Illustrated. You're getting hyped up by Rivals or Max Preps or whoever it might be. Why are you going to go play at San Diego State? Why are you going to go play at Wyoming or Hawaii or some smaller school when you've already got this high level of hype? The only reason you would do that is they're going to pay. They're paying.
Somebody's giving you money, whether it's a booster or somebody.
Otherwise, your brand is going to be better built naturally.
That's right.
At a bigger name school, at a SEC school,
absolutely,
at a Big 12, at a Big 10, one of those Power 5 schools. Why would you end up going down to a Group of 5 unless someone's cutting a check?
Exactly.
But these smaller schools don't have that kind of money, which is why the Power 5 schools, they're going to be the ones to pay these players, and they're going to reap the benefits of it because they have that money to spend.
But that's how boosters get involved because boosters are money outside of the school.
Absolutely.
They're the rich folks sitting out there, got money to spend, money to blow. They're loyal to their school. They want to see their school do well.
You get a kid who
those are the guys that will dish out the money.
Get a
even
kid
to
that's
these small
super talented
schools.
that's never had anything. Like, hey, here's $10,000 if you want to spend the next at least 3 years of your life in our beautiful college town that's filled with beautiful women, and you get to play college football and get on TV and. Everyone across the country gets to know your name.
All the things that these young kids want to hear.
You're giving me $10,000 to come do what I was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
Just maybe not necessarily in your town.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So
you're giving me a car to drive around for the next 3-4 years. Okay.
That's right. But I think this really gives the way that it's handled right now. It's at least starting in the right direction of giving these kids an option to make money off of their name, their work, and them putting their bodies on the line. Whichever sport it's in, the wear and tear, the training that they go through. I mean, training in itself is tough.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
as an athlete, I don't care what sport it is. Dude, you got to train to be great at it.
Some sports are just naturally harder on your body than other ones are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so why not be able to make money off of your likeness, your name, the effort you're putting forth out there your dedication to your sport and to your craft. It makes no sense. You saw them. So the Mississippi State Bulldogs won their first national baseball championship last night.
Right. With the first national championship of any kind.
Yeah.
They have never won a national championship, period.
Which is great. I mean, and I'm not a Mississippi State fan, but great for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I mean, for doing that. I would rather see a Mississippi
great
team
for
win
the SEC because it was
Exactly.
an all-SEC College World Series.
That's right, which is awesome, which everybody hates outside of SEC country, right? So great on them for doing that, first of all. But now those guys who are still left here, those studs that were there last night just smoking it, now they have an opportunity. They just made themselves a name.
Oh, yeah. Made themselves some money.
For those who are still going to be there next season on that program.
Who was that pitcher's name? Bednar for Mississippi State?
I
think so. But,
They threw a one-hitter last night.
That dude just threw – he threw the entire playoffs and the season like –
money. This dude was just balling.
That dude just earned himself some money, and not – definitely at the MLB level, but for now –
Sure.
Still at the NCAA level if he stays there.
Yeah, oh yeah. And that's what I mean. So things like that are good for guys who are out there.
He's a sophomore right-hander, and he is MLB Pipeline's 32nd ranked draft prospect. So
his prospect went up
early round 2.
Yeah.
Maybe he might have
his draft
worked
stock went
himself
up
into the first round. Of course, I mean this Mississippi State team is absolutely loaded with talent. 3 of their players actually played right down the road here at Northwest Mississippi Community College.
About 300 yards away from us.
Yep.
That's how close we are to that campus. And so great on them. And Chef again asked, can players sell autographed memorabilia?
Yes,
absolutely.
they can. They can take pictures. They can do paid appearances, signed autographs, signed pictures, whatever it is, or sell the. If you want to take a picture with me, $20.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's do it. And again, I have no problem with that.
We were talking earlier. This is what happened to Todd Gurley, his junior year at Georgia, his last season, was that he was selling autographs. NCAA found out about it, suspended him, and of course that's where the legend of Nick Chubb began there.
That's right.
As well. So yeah, it was a slippery slope, but now it's fully legal. So. Of course, it ultimately didn't hurt Todd Gurley's draft stock. I think he was still a top 5 or top 10 pick. Maybe he would have been a top 5 pick if he was out. I think he was like in the top 10, not top 5, but still went high.
That's right.
For a running back, especially one with knee issues, that's kind of crazy. So it didn't hurt him. But a guy like Des Bryant, you think?
Oh my God,
Des Bryant's last year in college football, he got in trouble before the season started because he was hanging out with Deion Sanders.
That's it. Just hanging out with Deion.
But the NCAA ruled that as an impermissible benefit. Des Bryant then gets suspended. His draft stock slips so hard because Des Bryant was largely considered the best wide receiver in the country going into that college football season.
Oh, absolutely.
He dropped down into the mid-20s, like 24 or something, is where the Cowboys ultimately took him. So, there's a lot of retroactive weird things. I mean, does Reggie Bush get his Heisman Trophy back?
I swear.
Does USC get that season back? He was stricken from the record where they won a national championship. Does he get that? Does the school get that back?
Again, that's a problem with the NCAA. I mean, why do you take? I hate their punishment program. What they do, you're punished if a couple players do something, then you're penalizing that entire team and everybody involved in that team, and that's such straight garbage. And then some of these guys are getting punished retroactively.
Absolutely.
Well, they had no part of it, and they're getting that is so dumb. I mean, it's crap what the NCAA is allowed to do and what they've been able to get away with, and that's only simply because of all the money flowing behind the scenes and all the pockets that they're greasing. If you don't believe that's happening, you're dumb.
Oh,
you're just flat stupid.
Question.
You're willfully ignorant. Let's say that.
Now, I saw something earlier that really intrigued me because I hadn't thought about it from this perspective. But, fancy myself a little bit of a musician. You can come check out my band, Meanwhile in Mississippi, if you're in the area sometime. However, to another college musician who also happens to be an NCAA athlete, Will Ulmer III. He is an offensive lineman from Marshall University. However, he moonlights as a musician.
There you go.
But prior to today's ruling, or it becoming effective today, but prior to this, he had to perform on stage with a stage name as to not make a profit from his name.
Yeah.
On stage. Now he can go back to performing as himself. It's just a weird thing that you don't really think about it affecting college musicians because they just so happen to be NCAA athlete.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Can players sell their game-worn jerseys? Do they own those?
No.
I don't think they own those at all.
No. They don't own those. Those are property of the university.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I guess, if they make it to that senior night, because a lot of guys, the super talented guys leave early. They don't make it to senior year. But senior night, you get presented with a jersey. So I guess technically once you get that, if you wanted to autograph it and sell it, you could. I think that would be it. But up until that point, no.
That's right. You don't own
because
those.
it is the school's property.
Exactly. So and that's kind of the other thing too is
or you could, but you can also be charged with theft. So
there you
there's
go.
that.
There you go. So you still got to be careful of what you're doing. I mean, you can't just go out and do willy-nilly things. I mean, so yeah, they don't own those at all.
It's such a strange and beautiful time we're living in with all these name, image, and likeness rules. Now, of course, big news that came out earlier this year was that EA Sports is finally releasing another college football game.
Mm-hmm.
It has been, 8 years since the last one came out in 2013.
That's right.
That was the 2014
edition.
NCAA
and the
football
last
game.
one.
Yes, this new game's not even going to be called NCAA. It's called EA Sports College Football.
That's right.
And prior to these NIL rulings, a few schools had already opted to pull out of the game. The big one being Notre Dame. Notre Dame said that as long as the players, you weren't using the players' images, you weren't using their likeness, and you weren't paying them for it, their school was not going to participate in the video game. Now, for a lot of people that aren't Notre Dame fans, it probably wouldn't be a big deal because Notre Dame's an independent.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, they're not going to pop up on your team's schedule in the game all that much. For a large part, that'd be something that you don't miss.
Unless you're a straight Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, unless you're a Notre Dame fan,
it.
which, hey, they have one of the largest fan bases in the country.
They do.
I'm not going to deny that.
They do.
But if you're a school that plays in a Power 5 conference, let's say LSU decided, oh, well, if you're not using the names, images, and likeness, we're going to pull out of the game. Well, now that's something noticeable that you're missing.
That's right.
Because if you are a fan of another SEC school, especially if an SEC West program, if you're an Alabama fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan, a Mississippi State, Arkansas, Auburn, and now all of a sudden, why is LSU missing from my schedule?
Well, there's a reason.
Because they decided not to participate.
Well, EA Sports was really good, though, about after all this stuff was coming out.
Right, with the Bannon case.
That's right, going back and paying their athletes after they were out of school.
Right.
Right.
Not while they were in school.
Not while they were in school, but when they were out of school.
But the slope that it operates now is, what is EA Sports going to do here? If EA Sports decides to use names, images, and likeness, all right, well, you pay the guys that are going to appear in the game.
That's right.
And go about their business. Now, if EA Sports decides not to use name, images, and likeness, and schools start pulling out, it's going to hurt the product.
Well, sure.
The game itself will suffer. It almost I personally feel like it puts EA Sports in a position where they're going to have to, at some way, they are going to have to go ahead and use the name, images, and likenesses for all the D1 schools that they're going to use. How many D1 schools do they use?
Well, that's really
there's more D1 college football programs now than there's ever been.
Well, but you look at even in 2014 in that game. I mean, it was honestly most everybody looked the same. There were a few people that actually, when you're talking about using their likeness, there were tons of generic faces.
Now, height, weight,
yeah,
and numbers and gear.
That's right.
That was all there.
That was there.
I mean, there was likeness.
That's right.
There wasn't name and image, but there was likeness.
There was build likeness. There were those traits.
They wouldn't be from the right hometown.
That's right. They would change a lot of that stuff up like that. I mean,
and that was their way of skirting arogoing it.
I think they've said they're willing to do.
EA Sports has said that
players.
they're willing to pay the players.
Now, and I'm sure that will be a scale. Like you're not going to be on fifth string, get the same money as a first string superstar guy is when they're paying these guys.
Or to avoid conflict,
pay a blanket.
Hey, you want to be in the game? This is what you get.
That's right. And it could be that, too.
We'll give you $500 to be in this video game.
Yeah.
You know what it beats? It beats not being in the game and not getting paid.
Yeah. And now people are seeing y'all every time they're picking up that video game.
Because we can take, who's one of the top guys? Spencer Rattler, quarterback at Oklahoma.
There you go.
He's projected #1 pick next year. As it stands right now, I don't think he's that good, but, I digress.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later on this year, I'm
but
sure.
Let's say you got Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. He decides $500 isn't enough for me to be in your game. And what if EA says, well, then don't be in the game?
That's right.
And now, instead of Spencer Rattler, quarterback #7, as the first string quarterback at Oklahoma, you've got, QB #2.
Yeah.
No name, random height, random weight, random image.
You fill in the blanks as to who you want to call this guy, whatever.
Right. And over on Instagram, we had someone ask, what if I'm trying to think of exactly what he was saying. They were asking about, I'll have to look it up. I don't want to misquote them here. But this whole, especially with the video game as it pertains to it, is a very, very slippery slope. He said, now, if the NCAA went the route of not using player names, likenesses, and images, he said, I wonder how that would affect custom downloadable rosters. So with downloadable rosters, basically the NCAA and EA Sports have come to agreement just not to do it.
Yeah.
So, also it makes it to where you have to buy NCAA's game every year, or you can painstakingly do the rosters yourself, but they're going to take out roster sharing.
I'm all for that.
That way people can't just buy NCAA 23
and just have that be your one game.
Or college football 2024 and just ride that one game for 4 years.
That's right.
Although, every year the gameplay is going to get better. They're always going to be working to improve the game. So,
well, here's a great question. If they charged $100 for the game, using the extra $40 to pay the players, I mean, usually those games are around $60 or so, in between there. Just say
except
that.
for now that the new consoles, they're $70.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, they charged $100, $40 upcharge to pay the players. Would you support this business model? Would you still buy the game?
No, I'm not paying $100 for a video game. So there's that.
I mean, so there you go.
If
the game was really good,
I'm really leery of paying $70 for a video game.
Yeah, but I think those prices
consoles
keep going up, and all the downloads that you get and add-on content in there, that a lot of people do. It's amazing how much money some of these games are making. But
now, if you're gonna if you charge me $100, but I get every piece of DLC that you're gonna release, then I'll entertain it.
Absolutely, I would agree with that.
Especially for a college football video game. If you're telling me, hey, $100, and you're gonna get every single uniform that every single school has, I'm down for that. I'll do that.
Yep.
But I have to feel like I'm getting something out of it. You're not just going to make me pay $100 for a base game.
Like you see some games, you come out there and it's got the very basic content, then you have to spend a small fortune getting things that already should be in the game.
Right.
So yeah, I would agree with that. But so there we stand, man. Players are getting played of a sort.
Yeah, of a sort.
They're making money off their likeness and stuff now
to
of
what
a sort.
Degree? I mean, that.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see this year.
Because ultimately, like I said, there's a very slippery slope. So, where is the line? What can you really do and what can't you do?
Yep.
Because there's things that you're thinking, paying college athletes, okay, well, we can do this. Because the school cannot outright pay these players.
No.
They can't do it.
That's right.
That's still against the rules. That's something we haven't talked about. So, in what way... I think we're going to see a lot of schools err on the side of caution, and maybe these players don't get paid quite as much as we think they are. Or they can do far fewer things than we think they can until federal legislation comes down the pipe.
Well, but here's the thing, too. If you're allowed to make money off your likeness, off your image,
right,
and doing these autograph signings and things like that, I think what you're really going to see is some of these guys and gals that get super creative on ways to make money through what they're saying they're allowed to do off of their likeness. And that's really what this is coming down to.
Well, and we talk about Reggie Bush, so here's one of the things with Reggie Bush. This is according to Joe Pompliano over on Twitter. You can follow him at Joe Pompliano. He says, estimates suggest that Reggie Bush would make somewhere between $4 million to $6 million annually with these new NIL rules. Yet the NCAA took away his Heisman Trophy because he accepted $300,000 under the table, while USC turned around and then made millions of dollars off of his success. It's time to return his trophy.
I agree. Completely agree.
Absolutely.
And I'm not a USC fan. Texas whooped them. Let's
Right.
go.
In the national title game.
In the national title game. Hook 'em horns.
The greatest game ever played.
Yes, it was. However, I totally agree with that. Pay that man his money.
We were talking off air before we got started. Think about not how much money did Reggie Bush make for USC, but how much money he made for the NCAA. I remember when Reggie Bush started blowing up for those USC teams, and those USC teams were wildly popular. I mean, you're in Los Angeles. There's celebrities everywhere. You got Snoop Dogg hanging out with the team all the time. You got actors and whoever else always around the organization. But with Reggie Bush, I was a casual college football fan.
Absolutely.
I've always been an NFL guy. And I guess around this point I was, 13, 14 years old, somewhere in there. Maybe, somewhere around. That sounds about right. But you started seeing these Reggie Bush highlights on ESPN, on SportsCenter. You're like, oh my God, this guy's just flying. He's jumping 5 yards into the end zone or 6 yards into the end zone, diving over guys, breaking ankles. Back before that was the thing that we really talked about in a viral type culture. Reggie Bush was that guy.
Yeah.
He was doing that on a football field, just straight snatching ankles, making dudes look dumb. But then you're like, well, I need to watch him. I don't like that school, but I want to watch him. Then they get successful. They went on a run of nearly 2 full seasons where they didn't lose a game. And at that point, not only is Reggie Bush dominating people, and the school of USC they're beating guys all the time. Well, now you want to see them fail. You want to see them lose.
Sure.
And so now you're actively rooting against them, but you're still watching USC, which is generating views, which is increasing the ratings, which is making more money for the NCAA and the networks.
Oh, no doubt. So Chef has I like this. So here's the interesting thing. If the base game would be $40, $50, let's do that. But Fortnite has a thing where you can download all these skins, right?
Right.
All these skins, you don't have to do it. You can choose to do it, and you can choose to pay money to do it. And once you do it, they're yours. All right, you can do that. So Chef is saying, what if they sold a base game with no player likenesses, but you could buy the rights to certain players, and the money went directly to those players? For example, Ole Miss fans could pay $1 to $2 for the rights of Matt Corral's likeness, or $20 for the entire team's likenesses, and the price per player would be determined by the player's popularity. Example, $2 for Matt Corral, 50 cents for the second string wide receiver, etc. Things like that. So it would be like buying skins in Fortnite, really.
Yeah,
the things that interest you, you want. If not, boom, you don't have to.
It's an interesting concept, but there's no way it happened. One,
I don't think it would either.
With a massive AAA title.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, Fortnite's not a AAA title.
No.
It's not. So EA Sports is going to have to spend so much money just to make the game.
Yes.
I mean, don't even think about the rights and the likeness and paying all that, but how much they have to pay for brand gear, whether it's Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, Jordan brand, whatever, to appear in the game, to have the gloves, to have the shoes and all that, to have the uniforms. You got to pay a lot of money there. But then you got to pay all the developers, artists. You got to procure all the music for the game.
That's right.
It's a lot of man hours that go into these games.
A lot of money goes into it.
So this game's will be no less than $70 on the new generation of consoles, your PS5 and your Xbox X or whatever it's called. So you're going to have to pay $70 for that base game. And the likenesses and everything's going to be increased. It's going to be included in that because basically NCAA will start selling the game, and then after a certain point in the fiscal year, they'll say, all right, how much money have we made before this game price drops down to get ready for the next cycle?
Yeah.
How much money have we made? Well, we're allotting X amount of dollars or X amount of percentage of sales to go to the athletes, and then they'll pay. I don't think that there's any way that they don't pay everyone the same amount. I don't care if you're a starter or a backup. I think because it's the easiest way to do it without conflict.
I agree with that.
All the players are going to fight against it.
But yeah, because it's certainly hard to see. You got a 5-star player going, why am I making the same money as this 4-star guy who has never seen the field and is likely to never see the field, because now he's making money.
But
off of one
You
of
also
the reasons
can't go strictly
my
on
people are
stats with
buying
that.
the game. Oh, I agree
Yeah,
with that.
Because if I've got a running back at Florida, and let's say he rushes for 1,300 yards, had a great year, especially against SEC defenses.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've got a running back at San Diego State or San Jose State, and they run for 1,900 yards, plus had another 600 yards receiving.
But does
had
anybody
30
know
total
that guy?
touchdowns.
Does
Exactly.
anybody know that guy?
But he just blew up, and he's a Heisman contender this
right,
year.
but
So should he get paid top tier money against playing against lower tier competition?
I think it's all based on your popularity. Are you the reason they're buying the game?
Right.
Because it's going to come down to that.
But will people buy the game for the players, or will people buy the game for the schools?
I think a lot. I think both. I think
Because-
there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of both of that.
Because there's a healthy section of NCAA players. I would argue the majority of NCAA players play
Buy
dynasty.
schools.
They play dynasty
Yep.
mode, and what they want to do is they want to go.
They want their school.
And
to
most
win.
of them play with small schools.
Yeah.
Most of them will go in there and they'll take an Army, a Kentucky, a Wyoming, and they'll build them up into a 5-6 star program. So by the time that you've got them to that point, the name, image, and likeness players are gone. They've been gone.
Oh, no doubt.
And then you go to a new school, you don't have to worry about name, image, and likeness because now you're in the year 2037, and you're just playing forward from there. So with the crux of the NCAA game being dynasty mode, and that's where all the players rally behind, does it really matter if 1,900-yard rusher from San Jose State gets paid more or less than the Florida player? Why not just pay them equally? Because after so many seasons, or if you got a senior, think about it this way. This is another dynamic I didn't think of. You got superstar senior and an incoming 5-star freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Should that senior get paid so much more money than the freshman? Because you're going to be able to play with that freshman a lot longer than you can play with that senior.
Oh, no doubt.
You're only going to get to play with that senior for 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
And that freshman you
But
can
I
play
think-
for at least 3.
But a lot of it is on the initial sell of the game. And that's really what it's going to come down to, is the initial sell of the game and what's the most attractive aspect of you buying this game. Is it because your regional team is on there and that's the one you want to go with? Is it because there are some superstar studs out there that are on the cover of this game? And that's another thing. Does your cover guy get more because, hey, you get a bonus because you're the
Right.
cover guy of this game? How does that going to work? Do they even do that anymore and put a star on the cover of that game? I would think that they would, especially a potential number 1 draft pick coming out of that year who you think might be going into the season. I mean, how does that going to work?
Yeah. I mean, so
That's why I don't think they all get paid the same.
I think that's exactly why they get paid.
I don't think they're going to.
Just because of use that you can actually play with these players. Coupled with the superstar factor, I think that's why it's going to make it the easiest way will be to just pay them a flat rate, as it were. But here's a funny.
I have no idea to make it easier, but I just don't think it's going to happen that way.
Here's a funny meme on Twitter from John at the bar. He says NCAA athletes waking up today and it's from Wayne's World where he's getting all the product endorsements.
Yeah.
So it's Wayne holding up the Pepsi, holding up the bag of Doritos so it can be red, holding up the Pizza Hut box while taking out the slice of pizza. Garth rocking all
Absolutely.
the Rockaware, or the Reebok rather, So, it's funny because that's how it's going to go down. You're going to see these NCAA athletes make endorsements. You're going to see more college football players or baseball players or basketball players
Absolutely.
or golfers on your boxes of Wheaties, on your Doritos, on Coke cans, Dr. Pepper cans.
Well, that's why we have them to
energy
begin
drinks,
with. We have
whatever it might
that
be.
because that's what's going to sell that product. Because
Absolutely.
people associate things that they like with other people that they see that they worship for some reason, that they like that. Well, I got to have that. Why do you think Michael Jordan is worth $2.2 billion right now? We don't buy stuff because his product is great. We buy it because it's Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
That's why we buy the product, not because that shoe is particularly the best thing in the world. First of all, it ain't. But it's Air Jordan. It is Michael himself promoting that stuff.
People will pay $200 for a pair.
They will. And I, even if, like we were talking about, if they go by schools, right?
Yeah.
You're more likely to have, like an SEC school. You got Alabama. You got all these big schools, LSU, like you were talking about earlier. So if we're going by, if we're saying there's a blanket coverage, then you got some San Diego States or whatever out there who's not even a well-known school, not even making any money. Do those players get paid the same thing because these are the schools that are drawing the money? I think there's a lot of things they're going to I'm curious as to what those conversations have been like when they're trying to decide, Do we pay by likeness? Do we pay by just school and popularity? Do we blanket pay these people? How all are we going to do this? Because there's a ton of factors going to why somebody may or may not buy this game.
According to Front Office Sports, this is how NCAA athletes can monetize their NIL. It can be done through hosting camps.
Mm-hmm.
It can be done through private lessons.
Yep.
Merchandise.
Yep.
Podcasts.
Absolutely.
Commercials. Memorabilia. Autographs. Streaming. Substack/Patreon. Shopify/Etsy. Small business or social media. So they can set up
tons of ways.
They can set up an online drop shipping business where they're just selling their shirts.
Yeah.
All day long. It's got their face and maybe their number and their name on it.
That's right.
Or whatever.
They can have a graphic design with their autograph on the thing and put that on a shirt, sell it. There's any number of ways, and that's what I'm saying, though. This is the schools out from not having to pay out of what they're making anyway off these athletes and letting the athletes have some of that cake, too.
So now this raises this question, going back to the NCAA video game then. If you have all these avenues for you to make money, and all you got to do is have a little want to.
Yep.
Not even much, just a little bit of want to, because
right.
because you are a college athlete, people will pay you the money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are making money through these avenues, and then you got the NCAA game, and they're like, here, we'll pay you $1,000 every year that you're in the game.
Yep.
And then after you graduate, and we put you in Ultimate Team, or we're going to use you in Ultimate in order to, if you're an Ultimate Team card, maybe you get a $500 bonus.
That's right.
Well, then you do the flat rate. I think more players would do the flat rate because they've got so many avenues to make the money.
I think it's possible.
Because if I'm the ninth string wide receiver at Directional College University, why wouldn't I want to take that $1,000? I'm probably not going to get the Ultimate Team $500 bonus. That's fine, but I can still start a podcast, and monetize it.
I can
still go stream on YouTube or Twitch.
Oh yeah, but I think there's a good way, like what he was talking about earlier, especially when we're talking about going back to Fortnite. Their model of doing skins is wildly successful. That's one of the reasons that company has made so much money. And it wasn't a AAA brand, and now you see them working with DC, Marvel.
Right.
They're working with all, and not just them, but we've seen rappers, rock stars, all these huge personalities coming on there, giving their likeness and paying to have their likeness in that game and making money off the skins that are downloaded for them.
Right.
I could see where they do an Ultimate Team. Hey, this is so-and-so team from the championship team from this era, and then dishing out some money for that team and downloading it. Or even somebody from who's not in the league anymore, right? They're now a super big NFL star. Say Peyton Manning from Tennessee, right? And they're saying, hey, we'll give you this much money to use your likeness back when you were this to put you as a specific old school card or a legend card or whatever it's going to be called in that time frame. I could see a hybrid policy of doing it because there's so many ways they can make their money back doing it like that.
You think about all the great college players that didn't pan out in the NFL. Like if you could get Johnny Manziel on Ultimate Team on EA Sports College Football, because he's such a mobile threat.
That's right.
Like the ability to run with him and draw defenders off of receivers and have a wide open dime to drop.
Sure.
No, that's enticing. So why not, go ahead, pay Johnny Manziel, because he ain't doing nothing else. He'll take the paycheck.
Oh, exactly, dude.
Or there was a running back for Oklahoma who butted heads with Barry Switzer back in the day. I think he was from Mississippi. I can't think of his name, but he didn't really pan out in the NFL. Or Brian Bosworth, man. If you could have Brian Bosworth,
give me old school Ricky Williams from Texas.
Right,
let's go.
Like give me some of these dudes. Like I will give me Chad Johnson. His 1 year that he played at Oregon State.
Right.
I'll take that Chad Johnson Ultimate Team card for sure.
Just smoking everybody.
Gladly.
I mean, that's what I mean, though. So there's so many opportunities here. That's why I'm saying it would be so curious to hear those conversations. Dude, this is what we need. If we're going to pay anyway, how do we maximize all that money and actually leave the door open to keep making money?
But I think it's got to be flat rate deals to begin the conversation, because if you start getting into valuing players at different rates, different college athletes, that's also going to open up a whole issue with your SJWs out there. Why am I paying $5 for such and such player, but so and so only have to pay $1? You're saying he's not good enough? Well, no, but is it that he wasn't good enough, or is it the value of the position?
That's right.
We value quarterbacks far more than running backs. We think running backs are disposable. Yeah. But if you give me Barry Sanders, I'm more willing to pay $5 for Barry Sanders than I am to pay $5 for Colt Brennan or someone like that.
And just because your best friend is a quarterback and the starter at Whiny Ass U doesn't mean that I need to go out and just pay you whatever just because you think he's worth that. Is his value, do we talk about this person enough? Is that why he's valued higher?
Dude, I will pay $5 for Deion Sanders as my corner / receiver / kick returner / punt returner. I'll pay that $5 easy. Get that Florida State.
That's right.
Deion Sanders.
He's walking out of the field of dreams, coming back on my team, and I'm paying the money to get that skin to download him with his traits when he was in college. Let's go.
But I get that, and I get so much versatility out of that one card. You know, why would I pay $5 for that and then turn around and decide, well, do I want to pay $5 for Laquan Treadwell? Like, yeah, he was a beast at Ole Miss. That's all he did. He only played receiver.
Yep. But then some people are just going to say, I won't care.
But he set records, man.
I'm an Ole Miss guy. I want Laquan. I want all these guys, and I don't care.
Yeah,
I just want these guys.
That's why I think it's a weird – I think paying DLC for players is not going to be the way it goes. Now, it'll probably do what they do in Madden on Ultimate Team, where you can pay real money to get points.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can redeem X amount of points for certain card packs, which has a likelihood of getting players in a certain overall skill range.
Oh, no doubt.
So if you pay 100 points, well, yeah, you're going to get a pack, but you might get like 5 cards in that pack.
Yeah.
And their player skill ranges might be from the mid-50s up to the high 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Now, do those packs right there have real players in them?
Yes.
And things like that? So they can still do the same thing in college they
can still do that, especially with the
You just don't know what you're
rules.
getting in there, right? It's
but now it could be current players mixed in with the legends.
That's what I mean.
It's not just legends.
Which would be cool.
So I could have a team that's got Spencer Rattler at quarterback.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll also have him throw into, I don't know, Calvin Johnson.
Sure.
Or I've got Jay Novacek at tight end.
That's right. Well, that's what I mean, though. That could be what's cool about some of the stuff. It's just how they set up the licensing. I have no doubt they can do any kinds of cool, fascinating combos. But what is their payment?
Right.
How are they going to handle it?
The individual paying for individual players, I think, is off the table. I don't think that it's actually going to be the way that it realistically is going to pan out.
Yeah.
And that's just for the NCAA game. And I say that because people have missed this game for so long.
Oh, absolutely. This first game's going to sell huge.
Oh, it's going to do
massive.
massive numbers.
It's going to put Madden to shame.
Well, especially because over the last 5-6 years, the gripe has been that Madden has not gotten better.
No, it hasn't.
If anything, it has gone laterally. Dynasty mode has gotten worse. They've introduced bad, unwell-received game modes. Mm-hmm. And all their focus has been on this Ultimate Team because it's designed to make the money through microtransactions.
Yep, that's right.
So, if they have all the potential in the world to do Ultimate Team right with college football, they'll make a killing on it. But as long as they make recruiting fun and engaging in Dynasty mode, and the gameplay is fun and engaging, it'll be easily the biggest game outside of FIFA.
Yeah.
That EA releases every year.
Well, this is what I hate about, though, as far as like NFL goes, them having all the license to one company like that with the EA
There's no
Sports
competition.
and stuff. There's none, and so there's no reason for them to get better. Well, why should they? They're the only game in town. They can do it however they want to do it. You either play it or you don't play football. It's pretty much that simple. And so I think even with the NCAA come back within the same company, it's going to create competition.
Oh, maybe. There are people who fervently believe, and I actually do agree with them, that NCAA 14, which was the last NCAA game that we got, or college football game that we got, that game by itself on not even the last generation consoles, but the generation consoles before that.
That's
like
right.
That game released on PS3 and Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last generation that game got released on. It was the most advanced generation that game got released on. And people still say that game holds up better than any of the modern Maddens.
Oh, I'd agree. Just the sheer funness of that game.
Yeah.
I mean, what you could do with it. And that's a tragedy. that's 8 years later, and
Because,
and that's the case.
Like I still have my PS3 to this day, specifically for NCAA Football 14. It is the only game I play on it. But every now and again I get that scratch, and I'll hop on there, hop into Dynasty mode. I don't even want to play the games, man. I will simulate the games, but I want to get in there and I want to do recruiting. And I want to see if I can get these players away from this other school, or if I'm at a small school, how can I build this team into a contender?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like I've got to be able to recruit at least 1 or 2 great players a year. And so people are going to miss that. But now that college athletes can get paid for it, I think it's going to revolutionize the way that this game series is made. Maybe change the way the NCAA games, or college football games, or football games, or sports games for that matter. Do we see college basketball games come back? EA Sports used to do that.
Yep.
2K Sports used to do that.
Yep.
EA used to make a college baseball game that was a lot of fun. Do we see those games come back as well? Because I'm down for it. This is just more material for EA Sports and the NCAA to make more money, and all they got to do is pay these athletes.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see. We appreciate you guys tuning in, especially Chef being in the comment section. Great comments. We appreciate the questions and stuff and participation in there. But I tell you, it's going to be exciting to see. I want to know. I can't wait to find out, because it's going to come out what that pay scale is going to be eventually. They can try to say that that's something they'll keep under wraps. There's no way you keep that big thing under wraps. People are going to talk. So
once it happens, we will know what everyone's getting paid.
Yeah, so it's going to be awesome. Well, guys, let us know what you think. Post your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Let us know. We will we'll be back with more specialty shows, and we'll be back in full force once the football season really kicks off.
Once training camp starts up in about 2 weeks.
That's right.
So, about 2 weeks or so. I think the Cowboys and the Steelers are the first teams to report, because they play in the Hall of Fame game.
Yep. Yeah, what a sucky season to start doing that.
Yeah, well,
You get the opportunity to have one less preseason game, and now you get stuck with the Hall of Fame game, so you have to play four anyway. Yeah, it kind of sucks. All right, guys, y'all take care, and we'll see you soon.
30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move, the 45, the 50. He's to the 40. He could go. He's at the 25.